Hi, my name is Blair and welcome back to my channel Bright as Blaze, where I share plant-based recipes that are filled with fiber and protein. They're also pretty flavorful. This video is focused on 2 cozy fall pasta recipes that are very saucy and warming. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe because I'm trying to grow. Okay, so this first pasta uses squash and tomatoes for the base of the sauce. So starting off, I'm chopping and mincing really a bunch of garlic pretty roughly, and then I add it to a pan with some olive oil. You want to remember when using olive oil, you want to cook on medium-low, especially when cooking garlic. It burns quickly, so you don't want to walk away. I did walk away, and you can see later in the clips that it is a little darker than I would prefer, but it still tasted fine. Okay, so while the garlic's going, I'm chopping up 2 fresh tomatoes. If you're cooking this in colder seasons, like we still have a couple of tomato plants producing tomatoes, so we're lucky. But if you don't have any fresh produce left in terms of really good tomatoes, you don't want to buy fresh tomatoes from the store in the middle of winter. It's just not going to have the same flavors or aromas. So you can use canned tomatoes. Make sure it's not, it's pureed and not diced. Diced tomatoes will not cook down into a sauce. They'll stay as diced tomatoes. Like, that could be enjoyable. I do enjoy that. But you'll have to blend for a smoother sauce if that's what you prefer. So that's just FYI. So after chopping up all the tomatoes, I add it to the pan. And I let it cook down, and then you'll see me start to add some seasonings. I'll add some nutritional yeast, paprika, and salt. Oh, and I think I added some Italian seasoning as well. Yes, I did. And then I just cook it and let it cook down into a sauce. Once it's kind of saucy, you'll see me add in a good dollop of vegan sour cream for extra creaminess, and I let it cook down. And after mixing in the sour cream, I let it simmer, and I prepare the other part of the sauce, the squash. Now, I forgot to record the squash preparation part, but I scrubbed the outside. I cut it in half, and I seasoned with some cumin seed and salt. It just needs a little bit of salt so that when we blend, it has some flavor on its own and it doesn't dilute the flavor of the sauce that we're already preparing. So you see me here, I'm taking out the squash and I'm just gonna toss this in a blender. You don't really need to add a bunch of liquid, but if you think you need a little, I have a high-powered blender. If you need a little more help, you can add a little bit of water as I do stock. When the sauce is cooked down and looks kind of like this, you can add in your squash sauce and mix it in. Be sure to taste it at this point and salt to taste, but it should be pretty well seasoned. Okay, next you see me preparing pasta. I'm sure you know how to prepare pasta. To add some extra veggies, I cooked the spinach very quickly by pouring the boiling pasta water over the spinach in the strainer. That's a really good quick tip if you want to just wilt the spinach without cooking it, overcooking it. Then I added in my squash and tomato sauce from scratch. I mixed in the spinach and the pasta together. This was delicious. It was creamy and cheesy and packed with tomatoey goodness. I loved this sauce. Okay, so for this next meal, this is a one-pot pasta meal from scratch. So you see me starting. It's going to be packed with lots of umami, a slightly spicy, and like a rich tomatoey sauce. I start off the sauce with lots of mushrooms and garlic, and I put that in a pot with olive oil, and I let that like cook down, brown up, and get some color. So while the mushrooms are going, you see me, I chopped up that giant zucchini, just a portion of it from my family friend's garden. And then I'm chopping up the rest of these tomatoes as the base of the sauce. And then you'll see me add in some additional seasonings right before I add in these veggies. So it really doesn't matter when you add the seasonings at this point, but yeah, you'll see me adding in these veggies and then some seasonings to the pot. So first, you see me adding about 4 tablespoons here of nutritional yeast, paprika to taste, maybe about 2 teaspoons here, and then at this point you can add salt. I also added some Italian seasonings. It doesn't matter where you add the salt. After the mushrooms are brown to your liking, you can add salt because you want it to get saucy. That's the goal. So I'm mixing in the seasonings and then I'll add in the fresh veggies. cream, or some extra cream, and then a little, like, teaspoon and a half maybe of gochujang for a little bit of spice. You can add more if you prefer it more spicy. I just topped it with some extra cayenne at the end. But you see me here, I'm adding salt to taste. Be sure to taste your sauce before you add in your pasta to make sure it's salted to your preference. And then you can add in whatever water. If you don't like extra saucy pasta, be sure to measure out your pasta to water. I love extra saucy pasta, so I didn't measure, I just went with whatever my gut here. And then you saw me grind in some white pepper on top of the sauce as well. And I cover and I let it cook. When the pasta gets a little bit soft, you can uncover and let the sauce cook down a little more so it's not as like saucy and watery. This pasta was warming, rich, packed with umami, and it had a little hint of spice because of the gochujang. Not really very spicy at all, just a little hint there. And then you can top it with some cayenne for extra spice if that's what you prefer, like I do. But it was creamy and wholesome, stuffed with veggies, which was delicious.